Ever wondered why violence is celebrated in the UFC? If you notice in recent years, the UFC has become more about glitz and glamour than it used to be. But until a few years ago, the UFC was known for its wild fights and violent knockouts. Let's explore a few of the wildest knockouts the UFC has ever witnessed. Number 10 is Anderson Silva vs. Forrest Griffin, UFC 101. If you are a UFC fan, you must know that Anderson Silva is the record holder for the UFC's longest reigning champion. If you remember in 2009, Anderson Silva was the middleweight champion. After being crowned champion, Anderson Silva decided to move up in weight to take on former light heavyweight champion Forrest Griffin at UFC 101, which was held in Philadelphia in August 2009. Although it was not a championship battle, Silva's place among the greatest fighters of all time was confirmed by this fight. Griffin, the arrogant winner of the Ultimate Fighter's inaugural season, was well known for his roughness and fighting style going into the contest. The fight lived up to the fans' expectations. Griffin advanced, attempting to deliver a forceful blow as Silva moved in a circle, demonstrating his amazing reflexes and quickness. And in the end, Silva emerged as the winner. This fight is still regarded as one of Silva's greatest knockouts, a career high point in an outstanding career. Number 9 is Alex Pereira vs. Bruno Silva, UFC Fight Night 170. During UFC Fight Night 170, an exciting middleweight battle between Alex Pereira and Bruno Silva took place. Both fighters lived up to the expectations with an entertaining back-and-forth fight, and they were both recognized for their knockout power. Pereira and Silva exchanged punches and leg kicks during the opening exchanges of the fight. Pereira continued to use his leg kicks and elbow in the close fought fourth round. Silva put tremendous passion into pressing Pereira till the last bell, even if he had a broken nose. With his triumph, Pereira's UFC record increased to 4-1, confirming his status as a rising star in the middleweight class. Number 8 is Francis Ngannou vs. Alistair Overeem, UFC 218. Some say this was the most savage and violent fight ever in the UFC. What do you think? At UFC 218 on December 2nd, 2017 in Detroit, Michigan, there was a heavyweight match that could have had championship consequences. In the match, the highly decorated veteran Alistair Overeem, who was renowned for his power punches, faced off against young talent Francis Ngannou in the co-main event. The matchup between Ngannou's immense strength and Overeem's expertise was much anticipated. Nicknamed the Predator, Ngannou had become well known for his stunning knockouts. The fight was surprisingly short, but it lived up to the expectations. Early in the first round, Ngannou struck a superbly timed left hook that rendered Overeem unconscious. It was one of the most savage knockouts in UFC history, according to some. Just prior to the fight, Ngannou recorded the highest punch ever measured at the UFC Performance Institute, further solidifying his domination. Ngannou's triumph shot him into celebrity status and secured him a lucrative new UFC deal. Number 7 is Derrick Lewis vs. Curtis Blaydes, UFC Fight Night 185. The main event of UFC Fight Night 185, also known as UFC on ESPN Plus 43 and UFC Vegas 19, was a heavyweight fight between Derrick Lewis and Curtis Blaydes. It was held in February 20, 2021. Originally scheduled to open another UFC show, this fight became the main attraction for Fight Night 185. In the heavyweight division, both fighters were ranked contenders. Blaydes was coming off a 4-fight winning run, while Lewis had just lost to Daniel Cormier, the champion at the time. The fight was mostly kept on the feet, even with Blaydes applying pressure while wrestling. Lewis scored a resounding knockout victory by landing punches after Blaydes lost consciousness. In addition to ending Blaydes' winning run, Lewis's victory put him back in the running for the heavyweight championship. Lewis received a $50,000 bonus for performance of the night due to the remarkable nature of the knockout. Number 6 is Anderson Silva vs. Vitor Belfort, UFC 126. In an attempt to retain his title at UFC 126, Anderson Silva gave Vitor Belfort a front kick to the face. Nobody would ever forget that incredible knockout anytime soon. During the opening 3 minutes of his defense of the Ultimate Fighting Championship against Vitor Belfort, Anderson Silva did not do anything. The kick then arrived after dropping the former UFC champion with a brutal left kick that pulled Belfort's chin near his nose. Silva paused a moment to make sure he was still conscious before charging in for a right and a left that caused referee Mario Yamasaki to stop the bout at 3 minutes and 25 seconds. Number 5 is Joanna Jędrzejczyk vs. Karolina Kowalkiewicz, UFC 205. A historic fight for Polish mixed martial arts took place at UFC 205 on November 12, 2016 in Madison Square Garden in New York City. Joanna Jędrzejczyk and Karolina Kowalkiewicz, both undefeated, faced off for the UFC Strawweight Championship. Nicknamed JJ, Jędrzejczyk was a rising star who is currently the champion. She has 12 professional fights under her belt and was renowned for her technical skill, accurate striking, and constant pressure. Kowalkiewicz had a 10-0 record and was a previous previous KSW champion. Her strong kicks and aggressive Muay Thai style were expected to test JJ. This matchup is regarded as one of the best matches in history, and both warriors pushed each other to the absolute limit with amazing heart and courage. It confirmed Jedrzejczyk's reign as champion and demonstrated Kowalkiewicz' ability to challenge for the title in the future. Number 4 is Edson Barboza vs Anthony Adam, UFC 142. The highlight of the January 24, 2012 lightweight match between Edson Barboza and Terry Adam at UFC 142 is definitely a tremendous knockout that has solidified its spot among the finest in UFC history. Barboza was already becoming well known for his formidable kicks and his destructive Muay Thai arsenal. An interesting clash of styles was predicted by Adam, who was also an aggressive striker. The fight lived up to the expectations with both boxers trading blows. Barboza used his jab well, and Adam tried to answer with blows of his own. Most people agree that Barboza's submission of Adam is among the most amazing UFC knockouts ever. MMA fans never stop replaying and applauding the kick's accuracy, timing, and pure violence. Barboza's career took a significant turn after the fight, confirming his place as a potential contender in the lightweight class. Number 3 is Dan Henderson vs Michael Bisping, UFC 100. Experience and rising celebrity collided in the middleweight match at UFC 100 on July 11, 2009 between Dan Henderson and Michael Bisping. On Season 9 of The Ultimate Fighter, Henderson and Bisping coached Team USA and Team UK respectively. This made the conflict much more evil. Even with Bisping's advantage, Henderson's experience and skill were vital. Dan Henderson defeated Michael Bisping via dramatic knockout after Henderson connected with a crushing right hand that rendered Bisping unconscious. The difference between Henderson and Bisping was a pivotal point in the careers of both competitors. It ended Bisping's perfect run at middleweight and cemented Henderson's status as a formidable knockout fighter. In addition, Bisping used the battle as a springboard to get to the middleweight title. Number 2 is Trot Teligman vs Tim Sylvia, UFC 54. Have you ever imagined throwing out your opponent in the very first round? Yes, that happened here in this fight. At 4 minutes 59 seconds of the first round, Tim Sylvia defeated Trot Teligman with a head kick. The fight concluded dramatically with a spectacular knockout, and just before the round was out, Sylvia delivered a head kick that knocked Teligman down cold. This UFC fight has a great deal of significance. Sylvia's this victory aided their second stint as UFC heavyweight champion. Conversely, Teligman left the MMA scene for a period following this match. Because of its timing and effect, this knockout has been described as one of MMA's most underappreciated ones. Number 1 is Kimbo Slice vs Data 5000, UFC Fight Night 11. It wasn't your normal mixed martial arts match when Kimbo Slice and Data 5000 faced off at Bellator 149, not the regular UFC Fight Night 11. It was not an exhibition of technical mastery or tactical sharpness, rather, it turned into a cult classic, remembered more for its strangely entertaining value than anything else. Kimbo Slice, who gained notoriety via videos of backyard fights, intended to pursue his career in professional mixed martial arts. Despite having little combat experience, Data 5000 came into the cage with a strong reputation. Everyone was expecting a knockout fight, and that's exactly what happened. The 3 rounds were an incredible show. Both fighters swung recklessly with little protection, obviously out of shape and lacking in technical competence. It looked less like 2 polished athletes and more like 2 people fighting it out in a bar. The funny thing is that the fight between Kimbo and Data serves as a lesson to all UFC fighters out there. Though amusing in its own right, it brought attention to the risks associated with endorsing fighters who are ill-prepared and the significance of fighter safety. It also brought in debates over the function of freak shows and mixed martial arts. Do you think UFC has lost its old glory due to less interacting battles and knockouts? Do share your views on this in the comment section. For more interesting stories and updates, subscribe to our channel and do not forget to press the bell icon for notifications. Goodbye.